Hello everybody, not in the workshop today because there's one very good reason. I need to be somewhere where I've got no major dust problems and no chance of any dead animals getting into this speaker like dead wood lices. And the story behind all this is I had a couple of very nice people came up from near Bath yesterday, and they brought a load of speakers for me to test, ranging in size from this big one here, 15-inch bass driver, down to an 11-inch, two of the 15 inches, two 8 inches, can't remember how many 6-inch speakers there were, various tweeters, mid-ranges, all in all 20 speakers I think. They brought them up for me to test. These had originally come from South Africa. I think the plan is to try and sell them, because a speaker like this, which is actually made by a company called Focal in France. Now, I never heard of Focal. I didn't even know they made speakers in France. I thought they were more culinary and wine producers than speakers. But apparently, with the research I could do, these speakers are very highly priced when they were new. This one, this 15-inch, probably would have been around several £100 to buy. So the whole collection, and there are more coming to be tested, when new would have been thousands. But I was testing this one, having done the first 15-inch. And what I was doing was, I was doing a 5 Hertz signal into it first of all, watching the cone go up and down, just to make sure that the coils weren't scraping on the magnets, which they weren't. And then I was sweeping this particular one from 20 Hertz signal up to, I think, about 1 kilohertz roughly. But when it was getting to around 100 Hertz, there was a horrible vibration, which was not what you want from a high quality speaker. And it didn't take long to realise that the dust cap was loose and flapping around in the breeze. So I thought, well, I've got to try and see if we can get this dust cap off. And it just came off really easily. The glue's obviously deteriorated over the years. So there you are. That's the dust cap with the remains of the old glue. Don't think the lighting's very good in here. That's the best I can do. So that's the reason for having it in a somewhat clean room, is because when this is off, you don't want dead things falling inside here, do you? Then, well, that would be a recipe for a disaster, and it would all end in tears probably. So the idea is that I've somehow got to glue this dust cap back on fairly precisely, and hopefully with no visible glue remains on the outside. And I haven't got much to go on here as far as positioning goes. All I've got really, and it might not even be visible, is a very slight mark there that matches up with this. I can try and zoom in, but I don't think it's visible on camera. There is a line. No, you can't see that on the camera, but there is a line that's about 1 inch circular, roughly. And I think I'm going to have to put some marks there, because I want to be as precise as possible with this. So I think I'm just going to put dots all the way around, just in the 4 places, and hopefully they'll come off later using alcohol, because I know these pens are alcohol soluble, and it's going to be a fairly stressful business. I don't want glue seeping out the sides, and you only get one chance when you're positioning something like this, and it could all end in tears. And I want to do the best job I can, but I've got various cunning plans that I've been working on when I couldn't sleep last night. So what I'm planning to do, when I get this off again, without damaging anything, I've got to have some way of holding this after I've applied the glue, and there isn't any way apart from what I originally planned was stick this on top with tape. I think this is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to have more tape on here that's easy to remove afterwards. And then I've got something to grab hold of that's going to be fairly stable. And I'm going to have the shakes when I'm doing this. That's my worst fear, because I'll be anxious doing it. What I really need is some Valium, but sadly I haven't got any. But I'm going to lower it down very precisely, and that's the plan anyway. The next thing was what glue to use. Well, I was going to use Evo stick, but I think I've gone off that idea, because Evo stick is fairly difficult to work with sometimes, and you can imagine it getting in the wrong places, and you get off, sometimes strands of it come out when you take the tube away. So I don't want nasty bits of Evo stick all the way around the dust cap. The other plan to hold this was a suction thing, like you take mobile phone screens out with. I tried that, it just didn't stick. I don't know what this is. I don't think it's cardboard. I'm pretty sure it's some sort of plastic. And it's probably not a very good seal. So that, using a suction cap was absolutely out of the question. So I've gone off the Evo stick idea. I did look up on eBay to see if you can get glues to do this, and I did watch a video also on YouTube about gluing a dust cap. Yeah, you can get really expensive glues from America for $40 odd, but I don't think that's the way to go. You know, plus the shipping, that would be a large amount of money, and probably no better than what I'm planning to use. Because what I'm planning to use is boring old PVA wood glue, Evo stick wood glue. I think it's PVA though. Pretty sure it's PVA. That's what it looks like. Now I looked up PVA, and it's water based. So if I did get any coming out, there may be a chance of removing it with a cotton bud soaked in water. As long as I didn't get this too wet, obviously. I've got to keep all the fluff out. Oh yeah, the other idea about lowering this down was use a vacuum cleaner. That could have worked, because that would have grabbed hold of the dust cap. But, oh God, imagine manipulating a vacuum cleaner hose, which is very difficult at the best of times. And not only that, you've got to try and turn it off while still keeping this all stable, and because it won't come off until you turn the power off, obviously, on the vacuum cleaner. But I looked up this PVA, and as well as being used for wood, you can use it for cardboard, you can use it for paper. It's fairly rubbery and fairly long lasting, apparently, once it's set. So that is my plan, to use PVA. So what do I need to do now? I think what I need to do now is, after I've had lunch, is get this properly fixed on, and then I'll show you the other thing I've got. Okay, no, I'll go on from that. Once I've got this in place and stuck where it should be, and I want to put some pressure on this while it's gluing, because it'll be gluing for, they recommend 24 hours on PVA. So we need a bit of pressure. I thought, well, how am I going to do that? I mean, I could put something heavy on top of there, but no, I want the pressure point to be around the edge where the glue is. So I come up with this ingenious plan. This is a kitchen bowl, and that fits very nicely over the top of there, and more or less precisely fits on that circumference of where the glue goes. I was a bit concerned about this slipping out of my hand and going through the speaker cone, but due to the stress I'll be under, I'll be so sweaty, I'll stick to the bowl, won't I? So I think that's going to work out fine. And by the way, after I've done that, I'm going to stick a heavy rock on it. A fairly heavy rock. And that's not pushing the cone all the way down, so that's fine. And I'll leave it like that for 24 hours. By the way, that came from a beach in Scotland. As did this one, which is not such a heavy rock. So I'm going to have lunch and then continue. Okay, that's what I've achieved for the positioning, and let's do a dummy run with no glue. Let me get this camera right. Okay, I think that's more or less. So, hard working around the camera. So, I've got my marks. I don't like this angle particularly. I might have to change that. Well, a bit dodgy, but I think I'm going to have to move the camera out of the way so I can get arms in from both sides. Right, let's get the PVA on the bottom of the cap. PVA in saucer, and I'm now going to use my fingers to spread it round. I know this is not going to work out very well, but I've got to do the best I can. And any that's near the edge, I'm going to try and get off. I don't want it leaking out. That's my main priority. There's no easy way to do this. It's going to be messy, isn't it? Whatever you do. It's difficult to know how much or too little to use. Too much and it squirts out everywhere. Too little and it's not going to give a decent contact area, gluing action, whatever. Doesn't matter if it goes inside the dust cap, because nobody's going to see that. I mean, I probably could have used a lot less, but it's just hard to know what the contact area is like. Because I'm applying this to old glue, which I didn't want to scrape off for obvious reasons. Okay. Looks a bit of a mess, but now I just want to go around, try and remove a little bit where it's close to the edge. I think this takes some time to set, so I don't have to rush it. I wonder how they do it in the factory. I'm sure they could do a lot better job than me, but right. I think I've done the full circumference. It's very uneven in places, but it's nice and sticky. Right, the moment of truth, I guess. Let me reconfigure everything. Okay, pull my sleeves back and here goes. Checking where my marks are. Can only see two. Just about see three. Shaky hands. Well, that is it. No glue squeezing out, which is absolutely great. And don't know how well it's sticking, but we shall find out. Now I think I can remove this bit because I won't be needing it again. I hope. Wow, that went fairly well. I can just about see my marks. I don't know if you can. Not really, but they're there anyway. And they're in perfect position. Perfect position, those marks I made. Now for the kitchen implements. Kitchen bowl sits on there very nicely. And the most important ingredient of all, the Scottish stone of destiny. And there we go. 24 hours later, we'll see the results. So I'll see you back in 24 hours roughly. Okay, just while we're waiting, this is what I printed out for this particular speaker. It's a focal, as in there, Audiom 15WX, edgewise flat copper wound, very nice, coil former, voice coil, efficiency 92.4, not a very good print. Right, on this side we've got nominal power 225 watts, way above what you would need in a normal domestic situation. Maximum 350 watts. The nominal impedance 6 ohms, but I'll get on to that later. DC resistance 6.35. All the other rubbish. Wire, copper, inductance 2.15 millihenry. Don't need to know all this. Flux density. Interestingly enough, and I never thought much about things like this before, the frequency of resonance on this speaker is 24.4 Hertz, quite low. And a load of other stuff here, which is as clear as mud. It's all sorts of bizarre technical whatever. The only one I do recognise is SPL, 92.4 per dB watt, 94 dB per watt meter, something like that anyway. And then we got a graph. Let me see if I can get this better. Alright, I think that's a bit better. So what we can see here is the frequency response measured in sound pressure level. Seems to peak around 200 Hertz, as you would expect with a bass, and then it drops off by about 15 dB down to 10 Hertz, which is probably what the lowest frequency to use this speaker at. Then it climbs to more or less flat up to 1 kilohertz, where it peaks a bit, 1 kilohertz. Then there's a sharp drop just after that, a bit more comes up, maybe around 1500 or 2k, and then it's a steady drop off then, because it's a bass speaker obviously. So, but the other interesting fact about this is on this same graph we've got impedance against frequency. Now if we look down here, down at, well, nearly DC, you've got, and bearing in mind this is nominal impedance, 6 ohms, we've got about 6-7 ohms at 10 hertz, and then we go up a bit, and at the resonant frequency of 24 hertz it shoots right up to 35-40 ohms. So it's quite a high impedance, isn't it, at that frequency? And then it drops off again, and it's more or less constant then, around the 6-ish, 7-ish ohms, up to about 1k, where it's drifting up a bit, and by the time you get to 1.1k, it's up to about nearly 25 ohms, 20 ohms, and well, if you got to 10k, then it's really quite high impedance again, but you wouldn't use it at 10k, of course. But it's something you don't think about very often. You just think, oh, I need an 8 ohm speaker. But an 8 ohm speaker is anything but 8 ohms. Its impedance will vary enormously over frequency. So, an interesting little look at that after anyway. So, back to waiting now for the glue to dry. So here we are, not quite 24 hours later, but speaker's now ready for testing. I think that worked out very nicely, that gluing. So I'll just show you the test setup. So up here we got the Rigel function generator set to 5 hertz at the moment, because I just want to check the coil isn't rubbing, which of course it probably isn't. And that's putting about half a volt out. That's driving this rather big amplifier, which I made myself. It's a MOSFET amplifier, and I didn't make this power meter. It came out of a scrap amplifier, but it's useful because you can see, well, the light's pretty poor reflections on it, but you can see roughly how much power you're getting. And when I was testing a couple of days ago, I was only going up to about 0.6 watts. So now if we turn up the audio and go around to the speaker, it's going up and down a bit. And a bit more, so we can see the cone excursion, and no problems at all there. So I'll stop that and then we'll sweep it. Turn that off. Bloody, this stupid camera thing is really annoying. Okay, now we're going to go to sweep mode, and same output level. Start frequency 20 hertz, stop frequency 1 kilohertz, and we're doing a time of 10 seconds. I could increase that, 20 seconds maybe. Right, it's ready to go. Let's go back to the speaker. I think I'm going to overload my microphone now, that's the problem on this camera. Right, turn the output on. Okay, that's now working. Well, I'll wait for the AGC on the microphone to recover, because I know that it does take a while to come back to normal volume. But that now is a perfectly working speaker. There is no evidence now of a bright vibration, which was caused by this bit flapping up and down on one of the sides on the dust cap. So that's the end of this test. Well, it gives you an example of what I was doing. I had all these speakers on the bench like here, and I was sweeping them depending on their frequency ranges. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now. Okay, well, one other thing we could do, we could put some music for it, but it's not going to sound very good, mainly because there's no middle and treble, and of course it's not in the box. So let's just turn the volume up quick. Yeah, fine. Okay, as I just said, bye for now.